Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Andrew DiStefano from Putnam County Crime Analysis. I'm taking a break from the part 7 of Bonadeo to speak about an issue that I saw on TV the other night, and it may or may not affect Putnam County in the very near future, and that's illegal immigration enforcement. Essentially, the ICE director, Tom Holman, spoke of there being an explosion of applications of local law enforcement to participate in the 287G program, something we haven't heard in a very long time in Putnam County. Now, what is the 287G program? 287G is a section of the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1996, and it allows DHS to enter into memorandums of agreement, MOAs, with state and local law enforcement, so that the state and local law enforcement can carry out certain functions of federal immigration agents. Okay. Now, what specifically is 287G? 287G has 4 models to it. One model was eliminated. Now they're down to they're back at having 3 models. The first model is called the jail enforcement model. And when you say model, essentially a state or local law enforcement agency can apply to participate in 1 model, 2 models, or all 3 models, but they would have to undergo training to participate in those models, because each one carries out different functions and responsibilities. So the first model that they can apply for is called the jail enforcement model, the JEM, and that allows deputized officers to interrogate non-citizens who've been arrested on local charges to determine their immigration status. And that's important because as of right now, you're not supposed to do that. Local law enforcement is not supposed to be interrogating people that they suspect to be non-citizens to determine their immigration status. And under the JEM, the jail enforcement model, they may also issue immigration detainers, which allows ICE to hold a non-citizen for up to 48 hours so they can come pick them up. Now, the second model that law enforcement can apply for under the 287G is the warrant service officer model, the WSO. And that's where ICE trains, certifies, and authorizes selected state and local law enforcement officers to execute ICE's administrative warrants. All right, they're permitted to perform arrest functions within a jail. Now, the third model that they have is the task force model. Task force model was done away with many years ago. Tom Holman recently brought it back, but he brought it back with stipulations, a lot stronger supervision, oversight, and training. And essentially, the task force model, basically all it does is it produces like a force multiplier type effect for ICE and local law enforcement working together. Okay. Now, the difference between the jail enforcement model and the WSO, the warrant service officer model, is that in the warrant service officer model, ICE does not authorize local law enforcement to interrogate alleged non-citizens as to their immigration status. You can only do that under the JEM model. All right. Now, the training under the JEM model, the first one, deputized officers must complete 4 weeks of training down in FLETC in South Carolina. Now, they're going to learn 3 blocks of instruction: immigration law, how to utilize ICE databases, and how to avoid and prevent racial profiling by your officers. And that's been the biggest problem, believe it or not. ICE, over the years, the 287G program has caused more problems than it has solved. And that's because of racial profiling, poor supervision on the part of both ICE and on the part of local law enforcement. You know, all these departments were signing up for 287G willy-nilly, and yet they didn't have proper supervision. They weren't serious. They didn't have the right personnel in place. So for the JEM model, for the jail enforcement model, there's like I said, there's 4 weeks of training down in FLETC. For the WSO, the warrant service officer model, it's only 1 8-hour block of instruction, and that's where ICE agent comes here, to their offices, or investigators will go to the ICE office and get trained there. Now, what are the costs? Program cost for the JEM The ICE covers the cost of the training in FLETC in South Carolina. They cover the cost of training, travel, food, etc. ICE will also install all the computers and databases. What they don't cover is the personnel cost. So if you send investigators down to FLETC in South Carolina, and you're the chief of police or you're the sheriff, you're still paying your people. So only the sheriff and only the chief of police knows what he or she can afford to lose and still maintain, operational standards. Okay. Now, as far as reimbursement for detention, it's very vague. It says the rules here say basically that it's they may reimburse under some circumstances. So that would have to be figured out. Now, how the jurisdiction's chosen? The jurisdiction, in other words, the police department would fill out, would send in this letter. This one here is for a specific model, but there's one for each model. So there's one boilerplate for each of the three models, and they would fill this out. They'd send it in, and then ICE would do their investigation. Before, they really didn't do an investigation. They just all they did was just sign up as many people as they can, and then brag about it at come the budget time or come election time if it was local law enforcement. So what's happened now is there was an investigation about 4 years ago with the Inspector General and the GAO, the General Accounting Office. They found a lot of problems, a lot of racial profiling issues. There wasn't any clearly defined goals by ICE. Local law enforcement they weren't serious about it. All they would do is just sign up and then do whatever they wanted. And they were breaking rules left and right, which is why 2 of the 4 models were eliminated, and a number of police departments were actually kicked out. Now, my concerns for Putnam, if Putnam County enrolls in this, my concerns for Putnam are as follows. In Putnam County, when we think of illegal immigration, what's the first thing that comes to mind? The village of Brewster, right? Right there, that's a problem. That's an inherent bias, because this isn't about going into the community and enforcing laws. This is about your ability to carry out certain functions from within your department. So these inherent biases, you can have them, but you can't act upon them. And it's very important, because you don't want your jurisdiction getting sued. That's a big deal, and then also, what would they be picked up for? They really should not be using this as a subterfuge to pick them up for, minor offenses, traffic offenses, and misdemeanors. Now, one other concern I would have for Putnam County is that if you're going to ask your personnel to start engaging in this field, then what you really need to do is make sure that they know the whole gamut. They know about Tren de Aragua. They know how dangerous they are. They know about Tren de Aragua's green light, the green light to kill any American police officer for any reason or for no reason. They need to know this, because when I was doing my videos late last year on and looking into Tren de Aragua and reporting it, I had over 2,000 views, and I didn't do it in a vacuum. I spoke to a lot of people in law enforcement locally, one at a time. And guys they never heard of Tren de Aragua. They knew nothing. No one knew nothing about any green light. That if you're going to ask your people to get involved in immigration issues, even something as vanilla as this, then you really do need to make sure that they are protected and they know about what's out there, what potentially is out there. Now, overall, I think this is if any law enforcement agencies in Putnam County, if they move on this and they become trained in 287G, I think it's a great program, because if it's done right, you don't have to use it. It's just another tool in the toolbox. And if someone you suspect is a non-citizen, you now have the ability to question them as to their immigration status. You can use that as part of to further a different investigation if you're looking at something else. So I think that signing up our people in the 287G, whether it's the JEM model, the WSO model, or the task force model, I think it's a win-win. I think it's a great thing. Now, just looking real quick before we go, these are the participating agencies throughout the United States. You see Florida has a ton of them. You know, Florida's really knocking the cover off the ball. You look at New York. New York, for the longest time, only had one. They had Rensselaer County Sheriff's Office. It was the only one in New York State for a long time. Now, Broome County has just signed up, I believe a month or two ago, and Nassau County has signed up for 2 different models. Nassau County is, they're having a lot of problems with MS-13 and Tren de Aragua. In fact, Nassau County, the safest county in America, remember that one? Well, they're having a lot of gang problems. I don't see, you know, it just goes to show that that whole article was silly. But they're having serious gang problems down there. And what Nassau is going to do is they're actually embedding their people into ICE. You know, so they're going to have people working full time in their ICE. And I think for Nassau, that's probably a good move. You know, now just very, very quickly, I just want to go over the Lake and Riley Act. Lake and Riley Act is not part of Putnam County, okay, or state and local law enforcement, I should say. But a lot of people don't know what it is. They just hear the Lake and Riley Act, and I have it here. It directs federal immigration enforcement, federal, to detain and deport those without legal status charged with minor theft, assault of a law enforcement officer, or crimes resulting in death or serious bodily injury of another person. Now, what was the key word there that I said? Charged with, not convicted of, not sentenced, charged with. So some people have critics. They say there's a lack of due process, and there might be, but right now this thing has survived some appellate review. So until they do, this is what the Lake and Riley Act is. So as I said, I think 287G is I think it's a good move if we do sign up for it. Only the law enforcement commander will know if he or she can afford to lose personnel for training, especially for the full week training. That's asking a lot. So if you can lose them, I think it's a great tool to have in a toolbox. Other than that, this has been Andrew DeStefano of Putnam County Crime Analysis. Have a great day, and God bless as always.